Hello everyone and welcome to another interesting game, but also a weird game from the Hamburg FIDE Grand Prix 2019. It's a battle of two Jans, Jan Krzysztof Duda versus Jan Nepomniachtchi, and well, best just dive straight into it. So without further ado, Jan Krzysztof Duda opens with c4. That's not a c, c4. The English opening is on the board. We have e5. Knight to c3, knight to f6, and then now g3. We have d5, so the reverse dragon variation, so to say. C captures on d5, knight captures, and bishop to g2 now, with a double attack on the knight here. And if you don't want to trade, you have to retreat with the knight. So knight to b6 and knight to f3, preparing to castle kingside. Jan goes knight to c6, Nepo. We're not going to call anyone Jan in this matchup, so a3. And bishop to e7 and b4, preparing to develop the dark square bishop this way. Castles by Nepo, and now e3 by Duda. And e3 is a new move in the position. There have been a few games where this position was reached where castles was played. b5 is a known move in the position. Rook to b1 is a known move. d3 is a known move. But like I said, e3 is a new move, and it is as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So we have a6 and now queen to c2, just developing the queen, preparing to castle, and also it's a good square for the queen. We have bishop to e6, and here Nepo finds a very nice idea. He anticipates the castling move because you don't want to allow bishop to c4 before castling. Your king will not be able to castle. So here we have castles. Bishop to c4 now attacking the rook, taking this tempo, so Nepo can play bishop to d3. So rook to d1 and bishop to d3. For the moment, stifling white's development, so queen to b2 and now queen to d7. Developing the queen and preparing to get the rooks into the game. But now you can't allow this bishop to stay here, so knight to e1 and the bishop back to g6. So finally you can push the pawn. You could decide to go for d4 right away. Duda decides it's best to just play d3, and then maybe if in the future maybe you'll need to play e4, so you don't want to overcommit with d4. We have rook 8 to d8 by Nepo, bringing the rook into the game, and now knight to e4. And this is, well, it's a very complicated position. Nepo has a lot of ideas here. For example, f5 is a very nice idea. Knight to c4 is a very nice idea, as the rook on d1 is undefended. So all of these options are nice. For example, if f5, this knight is coming to c5 either way. So after captures, and this knight gets attacked, first you're going to play bishop to h5, win a tempo as this rook is still undefended, and after the rook moves, now you go knight to d5. And here it's a really tricky position where black decides to, well, if white wants to capture on b7, you get to push f4, and it will be a very exciting game. So f5, not a bad idea. Knight to c4, also very tricky, as it comes with an attack on the queen, and after the queen moves, again, you first win a tempo by attacking this rook, then bishop to f3 is the best. Bishop captures, knight captures, and now queen to d5, with the idea that if captures, you again lose the rook on d1. So here, the game basically continues. So those are one of the two options. Nepo goes for the third one, which is knight to d5 right away. Duda goes for the c5 square, attacks the queen. We have captures, and now the b7 pawn is under attack, so rook to b8. And you can already see that this variation isn't as pleasant as the other two that we've shown, because now you already developed the rook to d8. Now you have to bring it back to b8. It's not a very active square. But okay, queen to b3. Now a double attack on the knight is here. The bishop and the queen are attacking it. Rook f to d8, defending, and now bishop to b2, finally developing this bishop. We have knight back to f6, and then now rook 8 to c1, bringing the other rook into the game as well. And now queen to e7 by Nepo. Queen to c3, and now comes the bishop to h5, again stealing this tempo as in the previous two variations that we've shown. Rook to d2, and here e4. Not by white, e4 by black. And this is a very interesting move by Nepo. Here, probably Nepo has to go for something like knight to d5, but he played e4, and it seems like a very nice idea, but it's actually not. So feel free to pause the video and try to figure out how to take advantage of this move while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, as it appears to be a pawn blunder. Or maybe not, maybe Nepo just had some really awesome idea that is, you know, beyond our grasp. But, you know, whichever the case, congratulations to everyone who found it. It's bishop captures on e4, for those of you who just want to enjoy the show. Point is that the bishop cannot be captured. If pawn captures, then after the rooks are traded, then okay, knight captures, black continues the game, everything is fine. But after e4, Duda played bishop captures on e4, and now it's just what was gained by this pawn push, because you cannot capture it due to mate on g7. The bishop and queen are eyeing the g7 square. So here Nepo just played rook to d7, and it's really a weird position. So you sacrifice a pawn, then you play rook to d7. But okay, maybe he just didn't want to allow white maybe to open up the d file or something like that. But all in all, it's just well, it's a weird move. And now Nepo wants to double up on the d file here, but Duda doesn't allow it. We have bishop to f5, attacks the rook, rook to d5, and now just e4. And here, if Nepo could go back to d8, but that's just admitting everything you've played so far was bad. So here he decides to give up the exchange. Rook captures on f5, we have pawn captures, and now rook to d8. So here, okay, he's down the exchange, he's down a pawn, but at least he has a light square bishop, and Duda does have some light square weaknesses, so maybe he can use that to his advantage. Queen to c4 by Duda, and now knight to d5, getting the knight into the game, and queen to e4 now. Duda is now up material, he wants to trade queens. Nepo, of course, not interested. Queen to g5, and now f4, pushing the queen further back. Queen to h6, and now h3, preparing g4 to trap the bishop on h5. We have f6 by Nepo, creating a square on f7 for his bishop, and then now comes knight to g2, adding another defender to the f4 pawn, as both the knight and the queen are attacking it, so preparing g4. We have bishop to f7 by Nepo, and now just king to h2. Knight d to e7, getting the knight into the game, and now g4, just not allowing this queen to enter the game ever again. Knight back to d5, as you don't really have all that many squares you can use to enter the game, and now rook to e2. We have rook to e8, and here you could go for captures, probably. You could play rook to e4 or bring the other rook over here, and you will still be better, but there's no reason to do this. You're up material, you can just go queen f3, which is what Duda does. Rook captures, and now queen captures on e2, and now g6. Black now is trying to somehow get his queen back into the game. Also possible, maybe instead of g6 you could consider capturing on f4, but then queen to e3 seems to pose some problems. I mean, you don't really lose a piece or anything, you can just capture on g2 and trade everything, but you're down material, you're not interested in making any trades. So here g6 by Nepo, f captures, we have h captures, and now king to g3, adding another defender to the f4 pawn. Also the king is much safer here. Knight to d8, preparing a knight to e6, but now queen to e4. Just a nice centralizing move with the queen. We have c6, defending the knight here, well, adding another defender to the knight. And now, again, feel free to pause the video and try to find the simplest winning idea for white in this position. Well, I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding such a nice, simple idea on how to take this game all the way to a full point. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop captures on f6. This is what Duda played. It's a free pawn, so why not grab it? You could grab the bishop now, or maybe you don't want to. If you don't want to, then you just lost another pawn. You're gonna move that bishop away, put the queen on the dark squares, and then black is just helpless. So here Nepo took. Now comes queen to e7 with an attack on both knights, and now Nepo decides to at least mess up white's pawn structure while giving back the piece. So g captures on h5, now knight to e6, saving the other knight, but now h captures on g6. And it was in this position on move 44 that Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned the game, and young Krzysztof Duda takes the win in round 1 of the Hamburg FIDE Grand Prix 2019, as there's really nothing to do here. You are, even after capturing with check, you are now down 2 pawns in the exchange, and you don't have any counterplay here. You could try something like queen f5 to go maybe after the f4 pawn, but just rook g1, threatening discoveries. So after this is prevented, you can't really move the king to the h file, so you have to play something like knight g7. Now rook b1, the rook will capture the b7 pawn. Bishop to e6, you can threaten the h3 pawn, but then check, king h7 check. Now you again guard the pawn, and now just rook captures on b7, and slowly but surely you will win the game. If queen captures on d3, you can even play a super lame move like queen g3, threaten mate, and offer a queen trade, because any queen trade is very favorable to you. You are still up 2 pawns in the exchange, so of course it's a completely winning endgame. So yeah, after h captures on g6, Duda takes the win in game 1, and we're gonna see what happens in game 2. Two other games ended with a decisive result. In round 1, Peter Svidler defeated Pentala Harikrishna, and also Maxim Vachier-Lagrave defeated Wei Yi. I didn't get to cover those games. I decided to show these two games as I thought these two were a bit more exciting. But maybe if I get enough time, I'm gonna show one of those two as well. So I would like to thank Prindle LLC and David Sagan for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the FIDE Grand Prix, continuing to check up on your suggestions, and still preparing the next big saga. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.